Developing tonight, the head of the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ is now suggesting we really shouldn't be surprised by the rioting we saw in Baltimore or in Ferguson. And here's why. Vanita Gupta saying in a speech yesterday that the looting, mayhem, and violence is based on a mistrust of cops that stems from said cops' predecessors' enforcement of slavery and Jim Crow laws. Earlier, I discussed this with internet entrepreneur Michelle Malkin, who is author of the new book, Who Built That? Michelle, it's so great to see you.
You too.
Oh, what a pleasure.
Glad to be with you, Megyn.
All right, so let's start with this Assistant Attorney General, Vanita Gupta, who used to work for the ACLU. She was with the NAACP Legal Defense. She headed up the Racial Justice Program, and then she was the perfect choice to run the Civil Rights Division or help run it at the DOJ. And now she says we shouldn't be surprised that cops are acting like this or people are against them because of slavery and Jim Crow.
Yeah, this woman is emblematic of the radical transformation that's taken place at the Department of Justice under Eric Holder and now under Loretta Lynch. That you have a Department of Justice is actually a Department of Social Justice. We actually have a nickname for radical advocates like this on Twitter, SJWs, Social Justice Warriors, who have no pretense of being neutral arbiters of the law. They have one filter and one filter only: race, race, race. To invoke Jim Crow is pouring gasoline on a fire that has been raging for decades.
And really what she's saying at base is the cops are bad because they enforce the law as it was written by politicians.
It is so poisonous. Not only does it continue to put our law enforcement officers of all colors in danger, but it also stokes this racial resentment and division, and it takes off the hook all of these cop-bashing demagogues, whether it's Hollywood, academia. I mean, we just had this incident at Marquette University where what were they doing? Deifying a cop killer. And this is the milieu. This is the climate in which progressive ideologues like Barack Obama and Ivy League lawyers like Vanita Gupta have been marinated in. It's extremely dangerous. And she paid lip service. I read the transcript. She did pay lip service to some of the cops who've died over the last year. But it was so obligatory.
There's another thing I want to talk to you about, and that is the First Lady, who came out and gave a very controversial speech last weekend at Tuskegee University talking about her own experiences as an African-American woman and what she perceives as her own victimization in this regard. You wrote a column rejecting it outright. Why?
Well, because it's based on a lie, for one thing. In fact, much of the language that she used at Tuskegee, she had used in a People magazine interview late last year, where she was trying to identify with the struggle, okay? And this was post-Ferguson. So obviously it's very calculated, the statements that the First Lady makes. And this bitter half politics, I've called her the bitter half ever since they came into office, she's a master of this kind of social agitation. And so she hearkened to an incident where she was treated in a racially discriminatory way at department stores. So she gave the same story at Tuskegee. And of course, it turns out, as I debunked it last fall, that was a complete lie. She had said that somebody asked her for help reaching for something high on the shelf. She's 5'11".
But she later came out and suggested that was because she was a black woman and they assumed she worked there, where she was already on record months earlier saying it's because I was tall and she was short.
Right. And when she related the story on Letterman on the couch, she had a big smile on her face. She said it felt so good to be a normal person. You know, Michelle Obama, she's just like you. And now she's turned it into this poisonous anecdote about how the vestiges of racial discrimination, this sounds just like Vanita Gupta, you know, hearkening to this old era where we can all blame this illusion of systemic discrimination, rather than have this woman thank her lucky stars.
But we are seeing more and more a culture of victimization in this country, Michelle. And I mean, I call it Cupcake Nation. That's what we're turning into, a Cupcake Nation. And we see it today. There was just an update in that University of Michigan case where they canceled the screening of American Sniper. And then the football coach, Jim Harbaugh, spoke out and said, we're screening it. We are too bad. We're going to show it. I'm a patriot. He came out and said, we're proud to be an American, and if that offends anyone, so be it. Yeah. Well, now he's meeting with the Muslim students at the University of Michigan because they didn't feel safe and they don't like what he said.
Yeah, you know, I call this the Oberlinization of America. Oberlin College, which I happen to be a graduate of, Stephanie Rollins Blake from Baltimore, the mayor there, was a classmate of mine. And of course, we heard that language, which has been used for decades now in these ivory towers of safe space, that somehow young generations of Americans should be protected from speech with which they disagree. And you can see how this has, you can connect the dots between that and between this festering, like you said, culture of victimhood that's going on, because, of course, it whitewashes the true root causes of the problems in these urban communities.
Plus, it just takes away people's sense of empowerment. That's how we get out of these situations, whether we're being discriminated against because we're women or we're minorities or whatever it is, that it takes away your power to send the message you are a victim and you will remain a victim unless the man gets his foot off of your neck.
Yeah, that's right. That is exactly why I wrote Who Built That, because I think in particular that what I'm trying to deliver is a message to young people about the promise of social mobility in this country. And in fact, the idea of social mobility is anathema to the progressive left. These are the people who preach the gospel of government dependency. They want to keep people down. And I think that in a lot of times that free market conservatives haven't done a good enough job of doing outreach to these communities. You do not have to become these Al Sharpton race hustlers and stoke this kind of hatred, because, you know, we have a shared principle and a shared interest in making sure that we can lift people up, that it's a message of optimism and individualism, not this kind of dark, dank collectivism that keeps people down. You know, there's something called crab in the bucket syndrome, and you see it in inner cities and minority communities, where when somebody tries to get out, what is the impulse? All the crabs want to drag everyone down, and that's what I think we need to reject, and that's why I wrote the book.
Good luck with the book.
Thanks.
Who Built That? By Michelle Malkin. Check it out.